Hi, this is Rick from For Community, creating community spaces so you can connect with others and also with God. I have an embarrassing story about me to share with you, and just for you. Don't tell anybody else. Make them watch this video. I have been lifting weights for many years, not as a superstar, not as a guy who knows what he's doing. I'm just trying to stay alive and active, and I'm just trying to show off sometimes to my own friends and say, hey, look how much I'm lifting. Just a total doughhead in the gym, but I'm doing my thing because I'm trying to stay alive and I'm trying to hold on to at least some part of my youth. Something has been happening to my shoulders, though. My shoulders have been getting more and more painful, and actually they have been popping out, and I have lost the ability to reach behind me and touch my back. So I went to the doctor. There was a scan done. There was whatever done. And the doctor reported back and said, Rick, I see nothing wrong. Like, but doctor, look, I can't touch my back. She's like, Rick, I'm telling you, I don't see anything wrong. So I recently connected with a personal trainer, and we figured it out. With all the working out that I've been doing, all that personal investment that I've been making into myself, I've actually been hurting myself. I've worked my front delts, the front part of my shoulders, so hard, so much that they're overpowering my rear delts, the back part of my shoulder. And now my shoulders are having trouble staying in place, and I have a really bad range of movement. I've hurt myself as I'm trying to personally invest in myself. So I have a really frustrated personal trainer telling me, man, I wish you would have come to me without ever having exercised at all. We've got to spend so much time correcting the imbalances before we can actually work on growth. He actually laughed at me one day during one of the exercises I was trying to do a stretch. He laughed at me because I couldn't reach my hands behind my back. And I had my personal trainer laugh in my face. My personal investment in myself after all of these years was assessed. I got a failing grade and a laugh in my face. What about you? Have you ever done anything to invest in yourself just to find that you were doing it wrong and you ended up hurting yourself or discovering some kind of disadvantage? If you've got a story, please pause the video and share it with whoever you're watching with. This video is based on my interpretation of 1 Corinthians chapter 3, verses 10 through 15. In this passage, we read something about the ways that we can personally invest in ourselves and how to assess if they're worthwhile or not. 1 Corinthians 3, 10 to 15, because of God's grace to me, I have laid the foundation like an expert builder. Now others are building on it, but whoever is building on this foundation must be very careful. For no one can lay any foundation other than the one we already have, Jesus Christ. Anyone who builds on that foundation may use a variety of materials: gold, silver, jewels, wood, hay, or straw. But on the judgment day, fire will reveal what kind of work each builder has done. The fire will show if a person's work has any value. If the work survives, that builder will receive a reward. But if the work is burned up, the builder will suffer great loss. The builder will be saved, but like someone barely escaping through a wall of flames.
Hey kids, don't forget to watch this week's episode of Connect HQ. See ya!
Here's a focus that I have for this video: how to discern if the investment in yourself is worth it. There are two things that are popping out in this text for me. The first point I see addresses the ways that we can invest in ourselves on our journey towards personal growth and being part of something bigger than ourselves. The second point that I see focuses on an assessment of those things that we do to personally invest in ourselves, to discern if they're truly worthwhile or not. So here are 2 points to help you discern if the investment you're making in yourself is worth it. First, let's talk about how we invest in ourselves. The text says, whoever is building on this foundation must be very careful. I see the idea being shared that we all have different ways of building our lives. We pursue careers, family, property, toys, achievement, education, promotions. I mean, the list goes on. There are a lot of ways that we can personally invest in ourselves. Depending on what we want out of our life, we invest in ourselves to put our lives on a trajectory towards the kind of person we want to be in the future. The investment we make in ourselves though, matters beyond the here and the now and the near distant future for us. It matters because there is an after here and now. There's whatever God has planned for us, which hasn't been totally revealed to us other than in symbols and metaphors and theology. But whatever this is that we're living in right now, there's going to be an end of this, and then there's going to be something else in the future. Whatever is coming next will include a very close relationship with God, and somehow us being like Jesus. There's also hints of limitless resources. There's the promise of the end of death and tears, eternal fulfillment, eternal purpose, eternal worth, your eternal worth. I mean, whatever comes next in the distant future for us is going to be a really, really big deal. With the idea that there's something that comes next in mind, now we approach the context of this text. The idea that's being shared with us is a really big deal. How we invest in ourselves right here and right now has an impact on how we're going to experience what's yet to come. And what's yet to come is far longer than our experience of the right here and the right now. So there's a big emphasis on building materials. The text gives us an illustration of building on top of a foundation. Just some clarity here. Jesus is the foundation, so that is taken care of. This isn't a text about initially coming to Jesus. This isn't a text saying that you need to place your faith in Jesus to have eternal life, receive forgiveness. There's none of that in this text. This isn't a text focused on evangelism. This is a text for Jesus followers. It's giving us a heads up that once we have become a Jesus follower, there is much more. That's just the starting line. We need to build on that. I mean, we could also use the illustration of marriage too, instead of the illustration of building. Once you get married, that's not actually the goal. That's just the gateway. It's the starting line. There's so much more after marriage. When you're married, you can invest in yourself in a way that draws you closer to your spouse, or you can invest in yourself in a way that hurts your marriage or stalls it or even ends it. I mean, if you invest in yourself in a way where you're having some form of alcohol every day, you're at risk of making that your primary attachment rather than bonding with your spouse and your kids. I mean, if you invest yourself in a way where you see yourself always working, making these big sacrifices for the big dollars, and you're never at home, or when you are at home, you're seeing clients and you can never turn it off, okay, that's going to have a negative impact on your marriage. Your job and your money are your primary attachments, and your spouse and your kids are going to be feeling the pain of that and the rejection that comes with that. So the point of the illustration is this. Now that you're a Jesus follower, you can invest in yourself in a way that prepares you for a great experience after whatever the here and the now is, after this is over, and when we find ourselves in whatever the next thing is that God has planned for us that will last forever, eternity, heaven, whatever. What you do right now matters too forever. So I wonder, how are you investing in yourself? Are the things that you're so preoccupied with, do they matter next week, next month, next year, a decade from now? Do they matter that long? Are they going to matter forever? Now, I'm not going to go through a number of scenarios about what good and useless self-investments look like, because I really hope that we're going to generate some good dialogue about this when we connect this Sunday. So think about how you're investing in your life, and let's talk this Sunday when we meet about how to discern if that's a good investment or a not so great investment. Here's the second thing that I'm seeing in the text, okay, so that we can talk about how we're investing, and then we can talk about this. Let's talk about how we're rewarded for our self-investment. The text says if the work survives, that builder will receive a reward, but if the work is burned up, the builder will suffer great loss. Okay, there's a new illustration now that's being used in the second part of this passage. The first part is about the materials that we can use to construct a building. I mean, there are many. The second part has more to do with like a refiner's fire, as the illustration goes. When you put metals into a fire, the non-valuable part of the stuff gets burned up, and what you're left with is the pure valuable part of the metal. So for example, if gold was mixed with something that's not valuable, the illustration tells us that fire will burn away everything that's not gold and will only yield what is pure gold. That's the idea of the illustration. We can think of it like a refiner's fire. So building on top of the idea that we all invest in ourselves as Jesus followers, now there's the idea that those self-investments are going to be scrutinized for their value. Again, it's got the end goal in mind. It has in mind the idea that whatever this time is that we're living in, eventually history is going to come to an end. And then there's going to be whatever God has in store for us next, which is something we really want to be a part of. The big thing is, we don't go directly from whatever this time is to whatever that time is. In order to get from here to there, there's going to be some form of assessment. And generally speaking, we think of this form of assessment as an evaluation of the relationship. Did you work on the relationship or not? Did you invest yourself in what God asked you to invest yourself into or not? Are the things that you're doing important to God, important to His kingdom, important to eternity or not? Did you take your faithfulness seriously, or did you hide the fact that you were a Jesus follower to the people around you? I mean, there are so many ways to invest in a relationship with Jesus, and I'm looking forward to hearing from you about how you're investing in your relationship with Jesus this Sunday and in your relationship with each other. Let's pause for a second here. Remember, this text isn't talking about heaven or hell. It's not talking about whether you're going to make it into the good place or the bad place. It only has Jesus followers in mind. There will be an assessment of what we have done with ourselves, and then there will be a reward. We will either celebrate that, or we will simply be thankful that we just barely squeaked in. Those are the two options that we're presented with in the text. So finally, we get to the application, at least my application. I'm hoping to hear your interpretation application this Sunday during one of the times that we connect. Here's the application that I came up with. Don't be like me going to the gym all these years just to have a personal trainer laugh at you in your face because you can't touch your own back. Don't be like that. Be smarter than that, please. As you consider how you will invest in yourself, consider how it will be assessed. I mean, will your investment matter a week, a month, a year, a decade from now? If not, then how much does it really matter? Will it matter as God assesses the relationship work that you've done with Him and with others to prioritize God's kingdom coming to earth and everybody being a part of whatever's coming next? Okay, that's it from me to you. For now, would you please like, would you please share, would you please subscribe, would you please ask for the link? We're meeting 2 times this Sunday, Sunday morning, Sunday night, Sunday morning, 10:30, Sunday night, just for men, 6 o'clock, for community, creating community spaces so you can connect with others and also with God. See you next time.